president's key economic team goes to China. After a whole night thinking, I say I still want to do it.
Hey there, this is Raymond, your China Tech Analyst. Welcome to TechBuzz China Livecasts by Pandaily. As the name suggests, these conversations are recorded live and then edited for your listening pleasure. Some of these chats are open to the public, and we welcome you to join us. So be sure to follow us on Twitter or sign up for our mailing list to get notified. Remember, members of TechBuzz China Insider get priority access. So if you're an investor or operator looking to join the smartest community online focused on China tech, go to techbuzzchina.com and see if you qualify. Extra thanks to our partner pandaily.com, where you can learn everything about China's innovation. Thanks for subscribing, guys, and do give us a review. Hey everyone! I actually met the subject of our livecast today, Raymond Huang, on a Wechat live stream. That is, he was a guest on one of the popular tech blogger live streams I tune into often, and so I sent him fan mail and we got connected. Until recently, Raymond was the Chief Strategy Officer at Mogu, a publicly listed Chinese e-commerce company. Now, Mogu has seen better days, but trust me when I say that when it first started, it was definitely one of the most innovative and interesting e-commerce startups in China. I invited Ray to talk to our TechBuzz China Insider community because Mogu was the first to launch live streaming e-commerce, or as some call it, live shopping, in China, which accounted for, by the way, an estimated $150 billion in GMV last year. It's also a business model that startups around the world are attempting to replicate. I swear, half of the entrepreneurs who sign up for my free office hours every Friday are asking me about live shopping. It's also already a huge part of the stories of Chinese internet giants Alibaba, ByteDance, and Kuaishou, and might soon make it into the narratives of the FANG companies in the West, too, or so they keep on saying. We'll go into today why that might not be so easy. As always, TechBuzz China Insider subscribers get to attend these events live and ask questions, so do join us. Without further ado, here is Raymond Huang on live shopping. Okay, we'll just get started because it's quite late where Ray is. Ray, you were one of the people I had tweeted about over this last holiday weekend, this Moon Festival weekend in China. And then you're one of those 4 people that said the 3-day holiday meant you're even more free to chat. And we actually chatted 11 p.m. your time on Sunday. So you are definitely 996.
Yeah, probably more than that. I'm like a 24/7 thing. Yeah.
24/7. Okay. It is 11 p.m. where you are right now. So thanks so much for talking.
No problem.
You actually originally said it was okay to do midnight. And then I was like, whoa, I would feel really bad. So anyways, let's get started.
Okay, sure. My name is Raymond. I was born and raised in China. I finished my college degree in Colombia and pursued a banking career after college, like everybody else did back in 2010. It's not exactly the best timing to join banking as it was like post-financial crisis. I went back to Hong Kong and I have been 8 years in Bank of America Merrill Lynch. I witnessed a lot of things. Even after financial crisis, being a banker in Hong Kong is effectively a front row seat, dramatic change in China with all the deals, all the transactions we have done, all the companies we have advised. It was a life-changing experience. I help a lot of companies to get listed in the US, including JD, Bilibili, iQIYI, Lexing, and many other internet companies. So it was actually a very interesting experience. So that inspired me to join tech. So in 2018, I joined Mogu and become the Chief Strategy Officer of Mogu. So my initial responsibility was actually doing the IPO and raise money, invest money. But later on, I actually expand my responsibility to growth, product, operation, and all different things. Another 3 years in Mogu, now I'm here doing my own little adventure now in Beijing.
Thanks for that introduction about yourself. Could you tell us more about Mogu for those of us who are not as familiar with the company?
Sure, Mogu is a fashion-focused e-commerce marketplace in China, and our biggest strength or biggest differentiation is we're very much focused on live streaming e-commerce. So live streaming e-commerce account for roughly 90% of our total GMV as of last fiscal year. It's fundamentally a pure play of live streaming e-commerce company. And we are actually the first one to start live streaming e-commerce back in 2016. Actually, we did 3 months before Alibaba did. We're the very pioneer in terms of innovating a new format of sales, of interactive and immersive sales in China.
And that is why we have you on the show, because we want you to talk about live streaming e-commerce. And I think you're one of the best people to talk about it, especially because Mogu was actually, like you said, the first to go into it. And I don't think most people knew that. You guys started a few months before Alibaba. I know this was before your time in the company, but do you know the origin story of why you guys started experimenting with that?
Sure, it will be a big lie if we say we can forecast or anticipate that the live streaming could be this huge hit in China in 2019, 2020. But back then, in 2016, it was because Mogu is actually a fashion-focused marketplace. We realized our consumers, when they come to Mogu, when they try to buy some clothes, it's actually very difficult for them to make decisions. They will be looking at 100 different clothes, what to choose from. And when they purchase that particular clothes, it would be like, this is not what I saw on the app. This is not exactly the same. The color is different, the size is different, and I don't look exactly like the one in the picture. That's why people have bad experience when it comes to apparel shopping, and that results in a high return rate, refund rate. We realize there's a pain point here for information transparency. Live streaming back then in China in general was actually very popular. YY, Inke, a lot of different apps were actually very entertainment. So we were thinking maybe we can just use live streaming as a way to showcase our product. They will be asking the influencer to step forward, step backward, turn around, stretch the clothes, sometimes even cut it open and see what's the materials inside. So it becomes a visual and interactive experience for them to see the product's real hand. They can see the clothes, they can ask questions in the live showroom, they can chat with the influencers. The technology was ready. Wi-Fi was very popular in China. 2016, people can afford the data and everything was ready. That took off in 2016, 17, 18, and then many other players follow with bigger supply chains and with a bigger supply of influencers. They also joined live streaming segment. So they become a huge hit in China. Because of the pandemic in 2020, maybe people are bored at home. The best entertaining or interactive shopping experience is live. Like give a final push to live streaming in China.
Okay, I'm going to ask more about that later because I'm going to ask you how it's really different from QVC, home shopping, etc. But we actually went and took investors to China at the end of 2019. Mogu was actually one of the companies we visited, and there were live streamers in your building on the top floor. Could you talk a little bit about specifically how the operations went? Why would you have influencers, for example, in your offices streaming from there? And they were streaming basically full time.
Yeah. So the short answer is no, we actually don't have influencers in our office. The thing is more like incubation or I guess technology lab. Basically, we have like tens of thousands of influencers actually doing the shows on our platform every day. All the influencers will actually do their shows in their respective studios. That's basically where they keep all the inventories or clothes samples and all different things. But we do have a little lab on the top floor of our building. And it was actually for new influencers. They don't know how to start doing live shows. So that's why we set up this like little lab. For beginners in our company, technology guys, R&D guys, they actually go to the real setting and see how the influencers react with the camera, how they can use maybe green screen, for example, to help the influencers to better portray these products. Aside from that lab, influencers have their own respective studio, factory. They travel over China to different supply chain partners and get the latest supply for their live shows every day.
Thanks for clarifying. When we were there also, we were told by your colleague that a 7-day turnaround from design to receiving the actual piece of apparel was already very common in 2019. Would you say that's true?
Yes, that's true. It depends on what type of clothes. On average, for summer clothes, maybe dress, right? For example, the turnaround time from design to final product is probably 3 to 5 days. End to end, when from the day you place the order and you receive the order, is probably 10 to 15. 2 weeks, you can basically produce and receive anything in China.
In a way, all these people expressing surprise about the Shein supply chain, really that's just available throughout all of China.
Shein definitely did a better job than peers. It's a factual statement to say that 24/7 supply chain is available in China and it can be accessed by many merchants and many brands. Of course, how they actually assess the supply chain and how they actually leverage the supply chain is really up to every single brand and how they operate.
Just because of flexible supply chains there doesn't mean you can make a profitable business out of it.
You just lose money faster.
So, okay, now I want to go back to earlier because remember I said I want to ask you about QVC because a lot of people just don't understand the difference between TV shopping, which we have here in the US for decades, versus live streaming shopping. What do you think are the main differences that make live streaming more compelling, in your opinion?
When we did the roadshow for our US IPO in 2018,
Yes.
one of the investors is in his 50s. He was asking us about QVC and what's the difference between QVC and Mogu's live streaming. We did a product demo during our investment presentation. I was like, okay, this is a phone, and you can see this lady is presenting the clothes right now. It was 5 p.m. Eastern time, roughly 5 a.m. in China. And he was like, impossible. I don't think any influencer will actually do a live show at 5 a.m. in China. It must be recorded. I was like, you can try to ask her a question. And then he would ask her random questions. So I was like typing something like, what's the size or what's the color? And the influencer just literally stopped and say, why is someone typing English? Back to your question, I think the fundamental difference between that live show the investor saw and the QVC is very interactive, it's nonstop, it's omnipresent, and you have all kinds of influencers doing all kinds of live shows in this little app, and you can carry this with you on the go. And you can follow the influencers you like. You can always go to their shows. You can interact with people who buy the same clothes. You can complain. You have emotional exchange with the influencers. These are very, very different from a recorded video played by QVC, or maybe even real-time QVC. It's very different from calling in to place an order versus you can just place the order online, pay and check out immediately. The impulsive shopping experience is very, very different. That's why it's generations ahead of other forms of shopping.
There are also a lot of tools because it is two-way interactive, right? It's not just users can call in, but the influencer or the seller themselves can also be constantly sending gifts or having challenges because it's basically gamified. You can give away red packets, have a lottery, make things fly across the screen, change special effects, all these crazy filters all the time. So it feels even more entertaining. So I think your point about the impulsiveness is very accurate. I know you're probably not as familiar with live streaming commerce in the West, but why do you think it hasn't taken off in the West? Is it because people are not hand-holding the new influencers, like, for example, you guys do in your lab, like Alibaba has done with all their training camps and investing in MNCs, discovering new talent and training them? Is it something else? I guess for me, I feel like there are a myriad of reasons, but I'd like to hear your top reasons.
Sure. I don't think that's really the case in the West. The live thing is not popular in the West unless it's news related. Among all this, a huge base of live streaming users in China, also a huge subset of people who are live streaming fans and e-commerce fans. The e-commerce penetration in the US is not as high as that of China, maybe just 2019, double the penetration. The e-commerce penetration is the prerequisite of live streaming. It's a subset of people who want to be more impulsive, interactive, immersive environment to shop. If they still go to the Walmart, Target, Costco, they're probably not the best target users for live streaming. I think this is number one reason, the entire social environment. Number two is supply chain, because our influencers can go to a factory's showroom, pick up the sample clothes, sell this, aggregate all the orders. You can see the sample clothes from here in my showroom and place the order right away. All these clothes are actually not produced yet. And the factory doesn't have any inventory risk. The influencer take a 10%, 15% cut. The consumer get maybe 30, 50% off. All these factors combined together just make live streaming e-commerce a very compelling shopping experience in China. So people just keep chasing it. I think that's not the case we see in the West.
The supply chain certainly isn't there. That's definitely all in China.
If you look at Amazon Live, I feel like Amazon Live is just a visual presentation of products. It doesn't really add much value to the sales. Sometimes I saw the Facebook Live, some of the hosts that are doing this and that. That experience is not as engaging as that I had in China. And there's no price difference, there's no discount, no promotion.
Do you think that's just because of lack of training? If it just required more talent development?
We usually use the term influencer, but the way we talk about influencers in China and the way the Western investors understand influencer is actually very different. The way they see influencer is like Kardashian or maybe Instagram influencer who post nice pictures. That's all they do. But influencers in China is a very difficult job. They need to look pretty. That's basic. They need to be knowledgeable. They should know how these products were actually made, from which factory, with what kind of ingredients, what's the expiration date, how do you wear this, wash this, match this with some other clothes, and all different things. And they need to be hardworking. An influencer on Mogu platform works roughly 12 to 15 hours a day, I think. That's a very challenging job. They need to handpick every single product and kind of have a whole theater in preparation in their mind. If you think about influencers on the Instagram platform, I don't think they're the same type of person. It's probably easier if you just go to Bloomingdale and ask salesperson to try to go live, because they are more knowledgeable. They can give you a lot of tips. They know how the product works. They are also presentable, eloquent, articulate. They can be better candidates for this kind of live influencers.
That's where Austin Lee, the number 2 influencer in China, came from. He used to work makeup counter in one of the shopping malls. Okay, so I think I'm going to combine a couple of questions. Sophia has a point that entertainment live streaming, like singing, dancing, which is popular in China, actually gaming in the US is quite popular. Twitch has 140 million monthly active users. Started off in gaming, now it's much more pan entertainment, but that is one vertical that the US does have a strong presence in. Writing on the back of this point, what are some of the more niche business models or special products that you've seen do well in China? And I'm going to give you a hint. In our prep call, we talked about Whatnot, right? Whatnot is one of the live streaming companies that has gotten a lot of funding here in the US, and a lot of people are very excited. So what do you think about that company? And what do you think about some of the more profitable niches you've seen in live shopping in China?
This is really about the value that live streaming can bring to consumers. As I mentioned earlier, Mogu invented this format of live e-commerce because apparel is a sector that people need to see exactly what they will eventually get. So they need to be very comfortable with the information transparency. That applies to other categories. For example, like antique or maybe collectibles, vintage comic books. If you go to an auction, you'll be seeing people examining antiques with magnifying glass and staring at things like for hours. These categories are usually the best for live streaming because every single SKU is very different. Therefore, it has a lot of information. Live streaming can add value to this product presentation. You're seeing the real thing in the real setting without touching it. And there are a million people actually seeing this with the same view. Ask them to turn around the product, twist the product, or do all the different things. They can have almost an offline shopping experience that adds huge value to this product presentation. Therefore, people will be more comfortable to pay for it and to buy it. The other side of the coin is that only apply to business of one single SKU per trade transaction. But the other side of the live streaming is that it's many people buying the same stuff at the same time that can push the merchant to give the lowest price, which is huge in China. That's missing in the Whatnot scenario. So Whatnot is effectively this one showroom. Okay, I'm going to sell these trading cards. It's expensive. That's a valid business. But can you also expand it into other categories that the influencer or the host will be selling millions of SKUs, millions of products at the same time? I think that would be a challenging mentality or mindset switch.
Right. In our prep call, you had actually called live streaming a form of Groupon. In a matter of minutes, thousands or maybe even millions of units are sold. If you can guarantee that beforehand, then you can go to the merchant and then get that group buying discount.
Yeah. Imagine this is just Costco, right? If Costco is actually running a live show now, they have 50 SKUs, and each SKU can be sold maybe 100 million units.
Okay, I wanted to ask, of the existing platforms, WeChat channels, Kuaishou, Douyin, Alibaba, Taobao Live, what are your thoughts on the platforms? How would you think about the key strengths and potentially weaknesses of these companies? And specifically, I think the one that people know the least about is WeChat channels, right? Because that is the newest. What's your prediction for WeChat channel?
I wouldn't expect any sizable financial outcome from the WeChat live streaming channel. I think that part is just merely a complementary feature to the WeChat's business. But the fundamental core value of WeChat is effectively a messaging app. They intend to keep it that way. And that's the simplest and the most powerful way to keep it the number one app in China. If they add more features to the app or make the app complicated, people will actually run away from this message app. That may potentially weaken the whole empire. So I don't think that Tencent is chasing after this tiny little GMV from live streaming e-commerce. It might be a topic for this discussion, but it's not a topic on Pony's table. That's my view. Number two, I guess there's a few different other players, for example. So Question maybe is losing a little bit momentum here and there. Douyin, of course, is picking up really fast, still growing in China with all different versions. I think Douyin's live streaming is very powerful and also has a closed loop transaction. However, I think Douyin sometimes monetize too much. If you do a survey among all the merchants who are actually running business on Douyin, right? Actually, I did a talk in Guangzhou last year for the Singles Day. I asked the merchants there, did any of you guys make money on Douyin platform, Douyin live streaming last year? I probably asked like 100 of them. Only 1% or 2% raised hands. Douyin is extremely competitive environment. A lot of people just pay for advertisements. People produce a lot of short videos to enrich the video library of Douyin, but they're not really getting much in return because the traffic is not stable. The following relationship is very weak. They don't really have the proper traffic pool from the Douyin system. So they don't really have a stable traffic to feed their e-commerce business. A lot of people are asking the question, I know everyone is all in Douyin. Should I do the same thing? How much longer can I do this? I think that's the question for Douyin. On the other side, Alibaba is more of a traditional e-commerce company now. I just feel that the content is not really their strength. Despite that, they have the biggest supply chain in China. They have the biggest library of merchants. They have all brands in China. But the momentum is actually not as strong as that of Douyin as we speak. If we compare Douyin and Alibaba closely, I think it's fair to say that new brands, especially the new consumer brands in China, they probably spend a lot of marketing budget on Douyin, but they probably will make more money on Alibaba side.
I think what you're saying is that Douyin has a lot of user eyeballs, time spent. So you need to
Yes.
spend marketing there, but you don't actually make that much money off of the e-commerce. What I see when I talk to new brands is that they're spending a lot of money on short video platforms to promote. They're selling it on Taobao, and then they're also at the same time trying to build up private traffic on WeChat. It seems like
Yes,
that is
exactly.
the
Yes.
strategy.
Yes.
They hope the latter one will really take off in the long run because that is the one they have the most control over.
I think people like the WeChat story more because investors just liked the WeChat story. Perfect Diary did that in 2016, 17. Whenever I shop in China, people try to get my WeChat accounts. They try to make me their private traffic, right? But from a consumer perspective, I'm actually very resistant to that. I don't want people to tap into my personal life. I don't want them to just keep asking me if I need another perfume or clothes on my WeChat groups. It's actually very difficult to execute that. But investors usually like this story. So that's why a lot of new brands spend time, effort, money to construct a private traffic story in the hope that they can convince investors my marketing expense eventually will go down because I have all these fans, all these WeChat groups. But in the end, I'm not sure if that's very effective in the long run.
Wow. Okay. That's quite a bearish take. What if they provided a sense of community or content or promotions for VIP members within their WeChat channels? Because I think that is the story that they're telling now.
Yes. So effectively, the brands will be selling their products cheaper to their retained customers. And if they don't do that, they likely will lose the customer. That's the other way to spin it. And that's actually the case for a lot of brands. If they don't give deep discount to their customers will walk away. What kind of brands is that though?
Ooh, shots fired. Lots of the new consumer brands, I think, have this problem. New DTC brands have this problem. Okay. Do you know what does the training process for influencers look like?
This is really the on-the-job training. Influencers will be driven monetary rewards. They know they can be super rich once they become influential. So they work extremely hard. They try out hundreds of clothes every day, 50 different makeup products on a daily basis.
What motivates these influencers? Is it seeing people like Via and Austin be such breakaway successes?
Yeah, because he set up a super idol. Austin Lee's sales last year was 10 billion RMB. So he can probably take home like 1 to 2 billion-ish RMB. That's a huge success for a 28, 29-year-old. And a lot of influencers of the similar background, they want to do the same.
James has a question for you about, do you think Kuaishou does a better job on traffic for their influencers? Because that's their story. Influencers have more of a direct connection to their fans versus on Douyin, the platform, the algorithm makes more of the call.
My question for the question is, why did Kuaishou change the layout of the product around summer last year? The feed was dual pane. Dual pane feed, effectively, you give exposure to more videos. People can click the video and choose the videos, right? Why did they switch to a single pane and copy Douyin's model? Why did they do that? if what they did was successful in terms of helping influencers. And if we look at the concentration of Douyin and Kuaishou, I actually don't have the number here. My question is, which one has higher concentration? By saying I'm giving my influencers better traffic, does that mean I'm also giving my influencers concentrated traffic? Is concentrated traffic a good thing from advertising revenue perspective? That's my questions for the question.
Okay, so you sound skeptical about Kuaishou's claim, basically. Ray's referring to the fact that it used to be, and you can see this still in their following stream, is still dual paying, where you can see at least 4 videos at a time. And now for the recommended, it is straight up algorithm, just like Douyin, where you only see one at a time.
But the For You page traffic is the majority of apps traffic. The following is effectively a fraction of users who want to check out their influencers that actually click the following.
Exactly. So I guess everyone is going towards trying to make more 爆款, which is more viral content, because that is what the single pane algorithm is really best for. It's for making viral content. Okay. Any other live streaming companies in China, or maybe just broadly e-commerce companies in China that maybe are less covered that you think this audience should know about?
We discuss a lot about Wechat or Wangwudeji, this kind of antique marketplace could be a big thing in the live streaming e-commerce space, but they're not public yet, so I don't really have a good handle of their numbers.
Wechat was a company that we talked about on the prep call that reminded me of Whatnot, and I said, Whatnot is similar, except I guess in trying to collect calligraphy scrolls, and here they collect magic cards. What is the typical commission paid to influencers in terms of GMV, and where is the trend going?
It really depends on the product categories. For example, a new release of cosmetic products, brands are willing to give the platform maybe 20-25% and maybe another 20-30% to the influencers. It could be as high as that because the gross margin for cosmetic products is like 75-85%. If you are selling snacks, the platform could be charged 3-5% and the influencers charge another 5%. But it's not really about maximizing the commission. It's about a good product mix. For example, for a 4 hours live streaming, the influencer will be starting with blank face and start putting on the makeups one by one, start selling all these skincare cosmetic products, and then with all these 50 different outfits, and then end the night with portable hot pots and also a lot of snacks for the girls to consume. They all try to have a very good product mix, make sure that their customers have a best experience. But of course, the commission eventually come from the pocket of the brands.
Okay, so maybe actually if you could give an example of the economics amongst the parties, so the platform, if the MCN, the host, and the brand.
In the case of Austin Lee, he's selling most of his products through Tmall, the GMV $100, for example. Tmall will take 5% away. And because he strike a advertising partnership with a brand, so that brand agrees to pay maybe $20 out of $100, 20%. The partnership goes through the Alibaba system. The Alibaba system will actually do a split between the platform and the influencers. So the money will actually go 3 ways. So they have another way to calculate what's the split Austin Lee should get eventually. Sometimes brands pay Austin Lee a placement fee, 坑位费, to get a slot because he has maybe 30 to 40 slots per day. And a placement fee is also very high. So if you count all these different marketing expenses all together, for Austin Lee, I think roughly it should be around 15 to 20%. For other smaller influencers, we should be looking at maybe 10 to 15. That goes to the influencers.
Got it. And do you think the trend is going up or down on the platform side?
On the platform side, I actually think it's not going to change that much though. The overall competitive landscape, if the brands are strong, they should be able to keep more of their revenue. If the brands are weak and new, they still need to pay the influencers to promote them. But given an intense competition among influencers, the general take among influencers should be lower.
Okay, yeah. Last question. Do you think live shopping is an add-on to existing social media platforms where traffic is already huge, or should it be a brand new platform?
I have never seen a standalone live streaming platform like successful one globally. I think live streaming e-commerce is usually a division or a part of some bigger company. For example, Douyin's live streaming e-commerce, Kuaishou's live streaming e-commerce, Taobao Live, Mogu Live is usually a part of a bigger company.
With the exception that I guess you can still have category niche players like Wechat, like Whatnot, focusing on specific like collectibles and then doing an auction format. That could be okay as a standalone. But I guess your point is that's not like a really global platform.
It's not really a sizable one.
So you feel pretty strongly that this is an add-on to an existing large traffic platform. And
Yes.
so maybe the reason why we haven't seen it take off in the West is because the large platforms haven't made this a priority for their businesses, unlike Alibaba
Yes,
has done
exactly.
so in China. Okay, it is exactly midnight at your residence. So I want to thank you so much for taking the time to speak. I do want to give you a little plug at the very end. So Ray has left Mogu and is now working on his own. Can I just say it's a cross-border e-commerce project?
We try to create a marketplace that help the US merchants to meet with US consumers, but in a more mobile friendly setting.
Okay. If any of you have a talent to recommend for Ray, feel free to get in touch. That's it, everyone. Thanks for listening. And if you're really serious about China tech, join our insider community. You do have to take a quiz, so make sure you listen to all of our past episodes on China tech on our main Tech Buzz China podcast. Also, a huge thank you to our editors, Carrie Huang and Bryce Ye, and of course, the entire Pandaily team for all of your help. See you next time!